All right, we're going to get to our other, of course, big and ongoing story from this week, Hurricane Melissa. This morning, we are starting to get a picture of the sheer magnitude of the destruction here after the storm battered the Bahamas overnight. Well, the National Hurricane Center is calling it one of the worst storms to ever hit the Atlantic basin. Officials say at least 36 people have been killed across the Caribbean. These before and after satellite images, we're showing you them on your screen left and right. It just shows some of the devastating aftermath in Jamaica. The United Nations regional coordinator for the island called the damage there unprecedented. He says an early estimate shows nearly 1 million people were impacted. NBC News correspondent George Solis has the latest from Kingston.
Good morning. Those commercial and relief flights set to arrive here at the airport in Kingston. Now, as for Montego Bay, well, portions of that airport were badly damaged, so it's still unclear when commercial flights may take off there. So it brings a lot of uncertainty for those 25,000 American tourists still stranded essentially in that part of the island. Now, yesterday we got a sense of the devastation in some of the hardest hit areas. We began to head southwest where Melissa made landfall, and the roads there were certainly treacherous. At one point, as we were moving, we actually saw police with chainsaws trying to chop up some of the large tree debris that was along the highway there. Many of them telling me that they were just trying to assess the road on a case-by-case basis. Our next stop was a town called Santa Cruz, where a portion of that roadway was just covered in mud, bringing traffic to a standstill. We talked to some residents there who were telling us the water got up to their waist, if not higher, some of them using buckets to clean up some of the muck and debris, anything that wasn't concrete, roof structures, completely blown away by Melissa's wrath. And then as we try to continue further and further to ground zero, essentially, to Black River, we came to a complete stop. There was too many obstructions, too much mud. Officials saying it's really just one of the areas that's going to be the longest to assess because it has just been so devastated by Melissa. Officials saying that they are now working on those plans to restore power, to restore food and water to some of these most devastated areas. And unfortunately, we are learning more about the death toll. Officials telling us by their count, at least 5 so far this morning, and that possibly includes an infant. Officials still working to assess some of those areas that, again, have not been able to be reached by any vehicle to really just start understanding just how bad the damage was. A lot of officials touring much of the devastated areas by the air. And again, you really get a sense of just that path of destruction as Melissa tore through the island. Some of the flooding here has sort of started to recede and subside. But again, when you talk about the infrastructure and just putting it all together, it is certainly going to take a long time to get a full comprehensive picture of the scope of the damage here. Back to you. All
right, George, thank you. Well, now let's bring in Yvonne Rodriguez-Wewell. She is the executive advisor for the Caribbean at Direct Relief. That's a humanitarian aid organization. Thank you so much for making the time to talk with me. I know it is a busy week for you and your team as you're working there. Just in this early assessment, as we've been talking about, just this really horrific damage. One UN official said Jamaica has been devastated at a level never seen before. What are you hearing about the extent of the damage across all of the impacted islands, not just Jamaica?
Devastation throughout, unfortunately. Jamaica, Cuba, Haiti, infrastructure damages. In Jamaica, at least 4 hospitals suffered significant damages, which is a reason for serious concerns, as damage to healthcare infrastructure can have long-term impact on post-disaster settings. Experience has taught us that that primary cause of death during these events is not necessarily the impact of the hurricane itself, but what comes in the aftermath due to the lack of continuity to medical services. In Puerto Rico, for example, after Hurricane Maria, more than 4,600 people died because pharmacies were closed, health centers were without power, lack of services for people that suffer from chronic conditions, diabetes, hypertension.
Coordinating relief, Yvonne, for one country after a natural disaster, of course, a monumental task. Your team trying to help several different nations, these island nations, they're separated by miles of ocean. I mean, how do you even start to organize a response to this magnitude of a disaster? How do you prioritize?
Yes, one of the biggest challenges right now is logistics, as you're saying, ensuring that essential medical supplies and equipment reach the hardest hit areas as quickly as possible, especially where infrastructure and power remain compromised. Our team is also navigating limited local transport capacity, communication disruptions, and the need to coordinate with multiple partners at the same time to avoid also duplication of aid, right? And make sure aid goes where it needs to go first. So at the moment, Direct Relief has allocated $250,000 to support in emergency operations and logistics, and we have more than $60 million in aid ready to be deployed, ensuring that essential medications, medicines, and supplies reach those that are in need the most.
Well, the storm also knocked out power, right, to hundreds of thousands of people. And then we've got the major roadways flooded or blocked with debris. All of that makes it difficult to reach some of these hardest hit areas. What are some of the biggest challenges that your team is facing trying to get help and supplies to the people who need it?
Yeah, like I said before, the challenges right now are basically the logistics, right? And trying to get these essential medicines and supplies, to the hardest hit areas as quickly as possible. We are in constant communication with the Ministry of Health in Jamaica. Right now, we already shipped 100 medical backpacks filled with first aid items for triage care for emergency responders. And we already sent that shipment with 250 requested medical personal care kits that includes hygiene kits for displaced people. So we're in constant communication with the Ministry of Health in Jamaica. We have been for the past couple of years investing in emergency preparedness projects such as solar power for medical warehouses, generators for health centers, and as we have been told, these generators have been working. So that's a little bit of a good news right there.
For people watching at home, what can they do to help?
So, yeah, Direct Relief is privately funded, so we depend on donations from individuals, private companies to continue our work. People can go to our website, directrelief.org, for more information on that.
All right. Yvonne Rodriguez-Wewalt, thank you very much for making time to speak with me this morning and for the work that you're doing there. We appreciate talking to you.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.